Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, what's up? What's poppin'? How y'all doing? Today I want to talk about 5 receivers that I am seriously avoiding in drafts right now. And some of these guys, it's not like I hate their talent or their situation that they're in. It's more so the overvaluing of them. Some of them I don't really like the situation, and I'll be sure to point those out. But it's the overvaluing of guys going off the board as wide receiver 13, for example, when I have them outside the top 20. Like if that guy's going off the board around RB or wide receiver 21, then he's a fine play, right? He's a fine guy. But when he's going as wide receiver 13 at what I would consider his ceiling outcome, he had a career year from touchdowns last year, and people want to take him again, assuming that's going to happen, even though he had a career low targets, right? This is not a guy that I really want to be going after. So just know that I preface each of these guys with, sure, if they fall 2 rounds in your draft for whatever reason, guys are just not noticing them, guy falls. It happens in drafts. So, yeah, take them and feel fine about doing it. This is at their current ADPs. So I don't need you saying, but this guy, he's so good. He's a good talent. I get all that. Trust me, I know all this stuff already. So the first guy that we're going to talk about is going to be one that probably gets a lot of people up in arms. It has on TikTok so far. Check me out over there if you're not already. We're growing pretty quickly. And that man's name is Mike Evans. Gasp. I mean, Mike Evans is going in redraft leagues, not best ball, redraft leagues right now on consensus as the wide receiver 13. Even though he's coming off of a career low in targets season. And he played all 16 games. Literally in years where he played 14 and 15 games, he had more targets. By more than 10 targets, last year was his career low in targets. Yet he scored 13 touchdowns, a career high. And sure, having Tom Brady instead of the ragtag of Jameis Winston and whoever else is going to be out there is going to help you. But it's also not sustainable that you have a career year in touchdowns at age 27, especially when your targets are going down. So let's just say that Mike Evans this year saw only 109 targets last year, sees 100 targets this year. I mean, that's not great. He's going off the board as the first receiver taken from this Tampa Bay offense, even though they have 3 potential wide receiver ones. Yes, Antonio Brown, nobody would bat an eye if he finished as the highest ranked receiver on this team. Chris Godwin. Normally in those situations, taking the highest guy means you're getting the worst value. In this case, that's true. Mike Evans last year was the wide receiver 12 in PPR formats. So basically where he's going off the board right now, despite having a career year and not having Antonio Brown there for all 16 weeks, a guy who led this team in Tampa Bay in targets and target share once he came to the team. Now you add in Giovanni Bernard out of the backfield, who should be more of a pass-catching threat than even the combination of Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, Rob Gronkowski coming off of hitting his stride at the end of last year, Chris Godwin now fully healthy after dealing with injuries all last year. There's a lot of things here. You can poke holes in Mike Evans pretty easily, in my opinion. But for whatever reason, people are still taking him in the 3rd round, early 4th round of their drafts. He's way too early there. There's about 5 to 10 other receivers that I'd rather have. Mike Evans, for me, is a guy I'm seriously avoiding anytime that he's on the board in the 3rd or 4th round at this stage. Now, this second guy for me is by far and away a really easy avoid. He's my wide receiver 45 right now. He's going off the board as wide receiver 37. At this time last year, he was dealing with a foot injury. He was going to miss the first couple of weeks of the season. Anytime a wide receiver is dealing with any lower body injury and is going to miss the beginning of the season, for the most part, you should not draft them. They should tank in rankings and only should be drafted if you can get them in the 14th round. This guy was still taken within the first 10 rounds last year. He got injured twice during the regular season. So just know that when you're viewing this, I know all of those things that he was hurt last year. This has nothing to do with that. This is projecting forward. And we can say his name, Deebo Samuel. He is the 3rd passing option in a run-first offense. Let that sit in there, right? What they want to do here, with the most creative running scheme, and they handpicked this year, Kyle Shanahan handpicked and traded up for Trey Sermon in the draft, still have Raheem Mostert, who they love and has been the most efficient running back the last 2 years in football. Yes, that is correct. They want to run the ball first. And when they're not running the ball, it will be play action passing, and it will be George Kittle, and then the number 1 receiver on the team, Brandon Ayuk. So when you're the 3rd option in a run-first offense, it is really difficult to succeed. And he's going as a borderline top 35 receiver, which I don't understand. Now you take it to another level of when, I don't want to say if, but when Trey Lance takes over, and probably sooner rather than later would be my guess. And there is a world where Trey Lance doesn't start this year. Jimmy G starts off 7-1 with this 49ers team, with their defense fully healthy now, and a fantastic offense with a great coach. Decent offensive line. I can see that happening. But let's just say when Trey Lance ends up starting, now you're in a situation where you have a mobile rookie quarterback, and it is very, very hard for rookie quarterbacks historically to sustain 2 pass catchers, let alone 1 in the offense. And now Deebo Samuel is the 3rd option. So it's really tough here. I mean, wide receiver 45 is me being generous. He was my wide receiver 50 up until a couple of injuries happened to certain guys like Rashad Bateman and Elijah Moore, which pushed them lower down my list. And besides everything I just mentioned in terms of his opportunities, he only had 2 completed air yards last year. He was number 108 in average target distance. Basically, if you saw Deebo Samuel getting a target, for the most part, it was like a 2 to 4 yard target, meaning that he had to do a lot after the catch, which is great, but it just lacks the big play upside downfield for quick fantasy points when you have to do everything after the catch. And I know what some people are saying out there, but Sal, he has mobile upside. Don't overstate the mobile upside. In his rookie season, sure, he had 150 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. That was before Brandon Ayuk was there. That was before they had the best running back that they've had on this team ever now in Trey Sermon. I'm projecting already Brandon Ayuk to have 12 handoffs, so I don't project the big 20 handoff season for Deebo Samuel. I expect him to split that. 15 carries or so for 75 yards is around where the projection is for Deebo on the ground, and that's still all that factored in only has him at wide receiver 45. Now, as we get into the third receiver, if you're enjoying this, take a second to hit the like button. We do have a 2021 fantasy football draft guide with tiers, rankings, top 200s, player profiles. The tiers are the biggest thing for when you're drafting to really help you, and it's updated daily, every single day, based on the camp news, based on preseason stuff. Every single day, it's getting updated, and the projections are updated to reflect in the tiers and rankings. You can check it out. Limited time offer for free as an add-on bonus thanks to our sponsors down below. Check it out. Any questions, let me know. The third guy is somebody similar to Deebo, but I might be even more out on this player. So this player right now is coming into his 3rd year in the league, or his 4th year in the league. First year, he didn't really get too much involvement in special teams, not too much involvement in the offense. Second year had a big season, had a 1,000-yard season, 8 touchdown season. Last year took a step backwards, and now he has his best quarterback he's ever played with. And this guy's name is DJ Chark. DJ Chark has been going off the board right around wide receiver 30, 34, 32, depending on the site you're drafting on. He's my wide receiver 40, and he continues to drop for me. As of this recording, DJ Chark is starting to get back into individual drills in practice, but he broke fingers in his hand or a finger, and he's had a cast, and he's missed at least 1 to 2 weeks of camp already with his rookie quarterback. He's watched guys like Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault get more reps in on him. If anything, Urban Meyer has been putting DJ Chark in the doghouse. And for the most part, DJ Chark, he's not an efficient receiver. Even in his big breakout season 2 years ago, he ranked 42nd in yards per route run. For example, Devonta Adams, the number 1 overall player last year, ranked number 1. A.J. Brown and Corey Davis and Julio Jones all ranked top 5 last year. These were all guys who had fantastic career year type years for A.J. Brown, and when Julio was actually playing, solid as always. Corey Davis, career year, got the big contract from the Jets. So he wasn't efficient at all. And then last year, he was outside the top 70 in efficiency in yards per route run. Him being able to separate, do stuff after the catch, everything there is factored in. So he's never been an efficient receiver. He relies on volume. And 2 years ago when he had his big season, there's nobody else in that offense. Now there's Laviska Shenault in his 2nd year. Now there's the number 1 receiver on this team by far, in my opinion, in Marvin Jones, who I've ranked well ahead right now of DJ Chark. And then they bring in Travis Etienne, who can flirt with 100 targets potentially this year. So you're going to get the same inefficient receiver now who's not going to get as much volume, yet people are still drafting him as a borderline top 30 receiver, and he's the potentially 3rd best receiver on his team. Shenault, for me, I'm all the way out on right now. He's my wide receiver 40. I mean, in that breakout season, he averaged 7.8 targets per game. In my projections right now in the database, it's very difficult to be putting him down for 7.8 targets per game. I mean, even if you have Lawrence throwing the ball 36 times a game, for a quarter, for 22% of those, a 22% target share for DJ Chark, when Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault and Travis Etienne are all there, it's very difficult to project that for him. I have him closer to about a 17 to 18% target share, 5.5 to 6 targets a game, and that makes him nowhere near this rank. And as we continue to go through into the rest of the receivers in this video, I'm curious, who is a receiver that you are staying away from? Let me know in the comments, and if you'd like to elaborate as to why, you can also leave that in the comment section right now down below. We move now to my stay away receiver number 4, and this guy just did return to practice, but don't let that fool you. He's not going full speed right now. He's doing some one-on-one stuff. He's doing some one-on-one with the quarterback stuff. And he's doubtful to play in the 2nd preseason game. By the time you're viewing this, probably for the most of you, it might even be the 3rd preseason game. It's the rookie out of Alabama, the Heisman winner, Devonta Smith. And look, Devonta Smith, for me, I thought he was an okay pick. He's going around wide receiver 31, and he got hurt, and he hasn't moved. He was going as wide receiver 30. He gets hurt. He misses 2 weeks of camp. He's not going to be 100% until the end of camp, right? For a rookie, that's pretty significant, especially for one who doesn't have a veteran quarterback who can just get the best out of guys whenever. If anything, Jalen Hurts is just as much of a question mark this year as potentially any rookie in the NFL. So now you have this situation where Devonta Smith moves 1 spot. Now he's going as wide receiver 31 on consensus, even though he has 2 lower body injuries, right? He has the knee tweak, and then he has a groin injury, which is thought to be minor, but still, for a rookie, this is not good things. These should be somewhat of yellow or orange or red flags for you, and he's not moving at all. And then there's the obvious overstated stuff during the draft of how this guy probably weighs 168 pounds and undersized receivers, although fast and dominant in college, You rarely translate to the NFL as a top receiver for a team. And I do have my question marks. Jalen Hurts last year was terrible. I know it was just 4 starts, but outside the top 70 in accuracy. 47th overall in catchable targets. Like, those things aren't good either if they don't improve. So that's a big question mark, and we're trying to rid of as many question marks as we can. Zach Ertz is still on this team, and all that's happening right now in camp and in their first preseason game is that the majority of the targets apparently from Jalen Hurts in camp, and we saw it in the first preseason game, are going to Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, the tight ends. So he could be the wide receiver 1 on this team, but he might be the third option, and then you also factor in the mobility of Jalen Hurts on the ground to rush for 80 to 100 yards like we saw last year and lower his overall passing volume to below 200 yards. Before the injury, I would have said, okay, you know what, wide receiver 30, it's too much for me personally as a rookie. I like some other guys more that can win in different ways, better quarterback situation, all this stuff, right? Offensive line, not as much of a question. And I can put him, wide receiver 37. Right now for me, he's my wide receiver 48. I've tanked him all the way down. And I'm willing to bite the bullet on that if it comes back to bite me, but I'm staying far, far away from him in drafts and letting somebody else, in my opinion, make that mistake. So now we end up coming to the 5th and final guy. And again, if you're still watching this and you're enjoying it, we have a lot of other videos. Top 25 receiver and running backs videos dropped recently. Top 50 tiers, top 50 players in my wide receiver and running back tiers broken down into in terms of guys grouped together for similar projections in my rank. These are all very valuable things, so you can check it out. Not just that, but a lot of other videos will be going out. We're covering the preseason. Check it all out on this channel. And if you'd like to, you can hit that subscribe button and notification bell to be notified of when we drop videos, and also go live, mock drafts as well, every Friday live. Be sure to get in on those on Underdog. So the 5th player, and then I'll give an honorable mention, but this 5th player for me is Gabriel Davis. And I know he's a little bit further down the boards. He goes off the board as the wide receiver 66 on consensus, and he's my wide receiver 79. I've been saying this for about a month now, and this was even before the news came out at camp that Gabriel Davis is the wide receiver 4 on this team, behind Emmanuel Sanders. And Gabriel Davis, for the most part, I mean, he lucked into the season he had last year because of touchdowns. And obviously you earn targets and thus earn touchdowns, but not every single year is rookies out of nowhere on limited overall targets of 62, having 7 of those be touchdowns, right? So you do get lucky in terms of regression. But based on where he's going as the wide receiver 66, he's going ahead of most teams' wide receiver 3s. Even though he's a wide receiver 4 in his own team, he's even going ahead of the wide receiver 3 on his team in Emmanuel Sanders. And I get it. Sanders' Achilles tear 2.5 years ago. I get it. He's now 34 years old. I understand all this stuff. But that said, he still looks good in camp, and for all accounts, the wide receiver 4 is Gabriel Davis. But even if you think Davis is the wide receiver 3 here, I wouldn't even rank him that high either. I know it's a great offense, but Gabriel Davis struggled last year when he had the opportunity to start in place of John Brown and take over for the majority of the routes run for 30 to 40 routes run. And let me tell you where he finished as the wide receiver in those games. In those weeks where he got to run 30-plus routes and be the starter, he finished as wide receiver 89, 87, 69, 41, and 39 in the final 5 weeks of the year when he actually got to start. That's where his finishes were. On average, he was finishing right around the wide receiver 74, 75 during that time on each individual week, only scoring more than 10 fantasy points one time in his 5-spot starts to end the year out. That's not great. That's not great at all. And why did that happen? Because he has trouble separating. He went to a small school. He dominated at that small school, but the big concerns was, does it translate over now to not just college football, top 5, Division 5 program level athletes, but NFL athletes who are going to be way more physical and way more talented. And last year, for the most part, it didn't. He was a jump ball guy. He was a red zone guy. He got away in the back of the end zone on basically 4 of his 7 touchdowns. So that's the concern that you're going to have with Gabriel Davis. It's not a major thing because either way, you're getting him in the double-digit rounds. So it's not like if you spend a 10th round pick on him that you're burning that pick. If he burns, it's not ruining your lineups. But in my opinion, he should be like a 14th round pick. He should be a couple rounds later. But those are 5 guys that I'm seriously avoiding at the wide receiver position. We'll have a video that's very similar like this one for running backs coming out shortly within the next week at some point. This is the prime time for fantasy football content. So if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, I greatly appreciate that. And comment down below if you watched all the way through. Who's the one receiver that you're staying away from? So I appreciate y'all tuning in. You can check out the Fantasy Football 2021 Draft Guide. It is linked down below, as well as the Fantasy Football 2021 playlist, which will be popping up right at the end of this here video. I'll see you all in the next one.